My name is Laurence Parker. I'm in the Department of Educational Leadership and Policy at the University of Utah. And I'm a professor there for the last year, and previously to that, I was at the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign. Basically, my research interest covers the area of critical race theory and its connection to educational policy and leadership, both in the higher education and K-12 context. I teach classes on the politics of education. I teach classes on critical race theory and education leadership and policy, and I also teach classes in the area of leadership for social justice and federal education policy making. I really got interested in the area of critical race theory as I started to take education law classes when I was in graduate school. And it served a purpose in terms of looking at the legal structures around educational institutions, policy making, and I was concerned that there was an absence of addressing the central focus of race and racism in the United States. And so I wanted to pull critical race theory into looking at education, leadership, and policy in terms of using it as a theoretical framework to analyze the decisions that are made and how policy is conceptualized and its impact on students of color in terms of the deleterious impacts that different policies have on the teaching learning process for students of color as well as on educational opportunity and equity. We just finished editing a special issue of the Peabody Journal of Education dealing with race and racism in education in the era of President Obama. We took the inspiration around that, basically dealing with the whole notion of how President Obama's election in 2008 signaled a post-racial era in America. And we took that idea to say, well, is it really a post-racial America when we take a look at the social inequality in schools and how that's based on race and social class? And so we issued a call for papers around that, and we got a good set of papers that are going to be published this fall dealing with what we mean when we talk about a post-racial society, and is that even possible? And then we took a look at some articles that are on higher education and K-12 that look at this era, this notion of post-raciality and whether that is even viable in terms of looking at educational outcomes for kids. The second project that I'm working on is a piece that I'm co-authoring with one of my former doctoral students in Illinois, and it's issues related to who are educational cultural negotiators. We've been looking at this idea around sort of educational advocates and middle people who work as informally and formally in school settings around this notion of educational cultural negotiation, that they take this on in terms of negotiating particular critical incidents that happened in schools to students of color, and how they act as cultural brokers, negotiators, in terms of what's happening with those students in terms of their learning, what's happening in terms of their behavior, what happens in terms of how there is a cultural disconnect between many white European American teachers and principals.